My name is Saeed Ahmed Rumethi, the advocate, and those my colleague, they are as a youth advocate also. I'm very happy that I saw you all here, and inshallah we have a good meeting, and we'll have a good result with everyone to solve the problem that we are thinking about climate and or about sustainability in general. I'll hand the mic to my colleague. She has a mic already. She can start the session with you.
Hi everyone. Okay, I'll just hold it up a bit higher. Hi everyone, I'm Sophia. I'm also one of the UNICEF Youth Advocates here in the UAE, and I'm here with my colleagues Mariam and Saeed. And today we're going to be leading a dialogue between Emirati and German students. We're going to talk about a number of different topics pertaining to climate change. And lastly, I'll let Mariam just give a brief introduction, and then we'll talk about our own journeys with UNICEF.
Okay, so I will explain to you the agenda of today. We're going to have activities about climate change, and we're going to have about 2 topics. And one of these topics is innovation and technology. I'll be hosting that topic. You're going to try to find a problem, and then to that problem, you should find a solution. After that, you'll be having about 5 minutes or 3 minutes to present your solution. And we will be helping you. And
the second topic that I'll be leading involves leadership and education, which are often under-discussed issues in the climate crisis. And again, following a similar structure, we'll have 15 minutes to discuss within our group, followed by 5 minutes or 3 minutes, depending on how good we are on time, for you guys to present your ideas. And I'm just going to take a few minutes to kind of tell my own story with UNICEF. So I've first involved myself in the world of politics and climate change when I was in grade 4, and I participated in my first MUN conference. This was the Junior International Model United Nations Association conference, and I won an award as an outstanding delegate. And from then onwards, I've been doing MUN for, a while, let's just say a while now. And I've been representing both my school and my country nationally and internationally. I've received awards from MUN, and I guess MUN was kind of the seed that first planted my involvement in climate change in general. Since then, I've involved myself in leadership in my school. I'm my school's equivalent of a student president at the moment. We do a lot of different environmental initiatives, and even outside the school, I've engaged in national level leadership as a UAE's International Ambassador for Artificial Intelligence and a National Ambassador for Scientific Research and Enrichment. And throughout all of my engagements, whether it be with technology or global politics, international relations, and development, my primary focus has been benefiting climate action and maintaining a spirit of environmentalism. And I think a voice that often goes really underrepresented in the climate crisis, despite the fact that we are the most vulnerable, are us as young people. We may be represented, actually, maybe it was a poor choice of words from my end. We are represented in the climate crisis. We have platforms like these discussions. We have the UAE Youth Parliament. We have youth advocacy positions like myself. But I've identified a repeated pattern where young people are represented, but not necessarily having their voices implemented in policy changes. And being able to work with UNICEF and having a legitimate platform for me to voice my ideas, voice my opinions on the climate crisis has been nothing short of extraordinary, because I'm finally able to see that I'm able to translate the voices of the young people around me into meaningful engagements and campaigns like what we're doing today, where we can actually have young people getting their hands working and getting their brains working and really getting involved in the nitty-gritty details of the climate crisis. So I hope that provides a good overview of my work with UNICEF so far, and I look forward to working with all of you, and I'll leave it to my colleagues to introduce themselves.
so, as you know, we are the UNICEF Youth Advocate for COP28. I'm also the President of the Environment and Sustainable in the Emirati Children Parliament. Before that, I would like to share with you guys a story, what made me realize why my voice is important. When I was a kid, I usually was called a shy girl. Every time I would go somewhere, they'd be like, Mariam, why are you shy? And actually, I hated when they would say to me, Mariam, why are you shy? Because I used to say in myself, I'm not shy, but why would they call me that? And let me give you 2 things that made me realize that I'm not shy. The first thing is when I was in kindergarten. My teacher was asking us a question, and I didn't raise my hand. But she was like, Mariam, do you have an answer? And I stood up and said my answer. And she was like, If you know the answer, why didn't you raise your hand? I did this. And the second point is that after a parents' meeting, my mom met me and she was like, the teachers were saying that you were wonderful, you're amazing in your education. There's only one thing, that you don't participate in class. Why don't you? And I said to her, no, I do participate. When the teacher asks me a question, I do answer. She was like, okay, but when she asked the class, why won't you raise your hand? And I will respond to her that she asked the class and she didn't say Maryam, so why should I answer? And then from this point, I realized that my voice is important in this community. My voice has the role of creating a future. And what I've done in my journey as COP youth advocate, I have been educated about climate change. What that made me led to write 2 studies for kids about climate action. One that it's called 2071, and the other one it's called We Are the Renewable Energy. And I even published a blog called Tit for Tat Relationship Between Climate Change and Mental Health. And me and my colleagues, we actually started doing some conferences, spreading awareness to kids about how us as kids, we are the less active in climate action, in climate change, but we are the most affected by climate change.
Very well spoken, Maryam. And with that, and I think that serves as a good transition for us to introduce the 2 topics that we're going to be discussing today. So I'll begin with the focus that my group is going to have. Well, actually, we're splitting into 4 groups, but anyways, 2 of those groups will be with me. And we're going to talk about leadership and education. Now, I just want to do a quick interactive thing with you guys here. How many of you have talked about climate change at school? Raise your hands. Okay, that's a good number. It could be better, but it's really good, and I like seeing that there's a good amount of knowledge here. The next question is, hands up if you really understand what your role in climate change is beyond just a definition for climate change or just what is COP28 and things like that. Do you know a bit more beyond the surface level? And this is the problem. Because we do have climate change discussion. We do have it mentioned. We see it in the media all the time when we're doom scrolling on Instagram or TikTok or wherever it is. We see all these statistics. If we don't reach the 1.5 degrees Celsius change, humanity's done for. But that's not the only discussion that should be taking place about climate change. Young people, as Maria mentioned, we are the most vulnerable to the climate crisis. We are most affected in terms of our physical and mental well-being, both because of the higher needs we have, because we're children, and also because the years and years of growth and development that we have ahead of us. We are already the leaders of today. People who come to you and tell you that you're going to be leaders of the climate crisis tomorrow and you're going to inherit a planet struggling through climate change, they're wrong, because we are already those leaders. Many of us, although we're really fortunate to live here in the UAE, in a country that supports us and ensures that we have our rights protected, we see our fellow children, our counterparts around the world who do not have such privileges, and unfortunately have been forced to be put in situations where they have to be the leaders, they have to find solutions to problems that they might not have necessarily caused. And that's where education comes in, because we need 2 things. We first of all need to recognize and fully understand the science behind climate change. Sure, at least I hope that everyone here believes in its existence, but that is not enough. We need to know that what every single one of our actions, what role those actions are playing in accelerating climate change and accelerating its impacts, how other children around the world are being impacted by climate adversities, natural disasters, economic distraught conditions that have been brought about by climate change. We need to better understand the nature of the issue. And the second thing that needs to happen is we need to have a greater understanding of the technicalities and the platforms that are available for us to implement solutions. And those are, I guess, things to consider when we're discussing this topic here today, is the role of education in ensuring we can meet these 2 goals. And with education comes the idea that I mentioned earlier of youth leadership, youth representation, and lastly, youth implementation. And that's another key area that I would like all of us to consider, is not just the idea of informing young people and allowing them to speak, but also allowing adults, allowing people in power to listen and actually act upon our ideas. So I hope that gives you a good primer of what to expect if you're in my group, and I guess Maria will explain her end.
Okay, so I'll be hosting the innovation and technology. So as all of us know that innovation, technology will have a big impact on the future. But let's discuss what are the negatives and the positive of innovation and technology in climate change. Will climate change, or will technology and innovation have a big role in climate change? Will it be part of climate change, or will it fight climate change? Okay. So this is the topics that we're going to be discussing, and we're going to be splitting them into 2 or 4. What do you prefer? Okay. So we're going to split you guys into 2 groups. Which group do you want to take?
I guess I'll take this side since I'm already standing
Okay,
here.
and the sides, you're going to have the innovation and technology.
Yes. And we'll give you guys 15 minutes. We're good on time. So yeah, 15 minutes, just discuss, first of all, identify some problems, and lastly, some solutions. And after the 15-minute period, each group will get 5 minutes to send some representatives to the front and share our ideas. And yeah, so I
And
guess,
we will go around also to help you.
yeah. So let's begin. Your time starts now. All right, everyone, so let's start wrapping up the discussion and bring the attention back to the front. That's okay. If we could have both groups just wrap up your discussions and gradually quiet down.
So we're going to start right now. The time ended.
Okay, guys, can we please have all of your attention at the front? We're wrapping up the discussion. We're moving on to the presentation segment. So,
Have you
First-
chose your representatives?
yes, I believe both groups have theirs. I just want to say, first of all, thank you to everyone. The discussions that I heard were really great. Although some of them I could not understand because they were in German. But those that I did understand were really great, and I appreciate the meaningful discourse that's taken place today. So we're first going to start with, do you guys want to begin, or I don't mind?
It's fine. Who wants to start?
Yeah, which
this
group?
group or this?
All right, we'll start with the leadership and education group. So we have 2 representatives, one Emirati and one German, and I'm going to invite you both to the front. And we'll give you 5 minutes, and you can just share the microphone and share your ideas.
My name is Fatma Raghbani. I'm a member in the Emirati Children's Parliament. So our group, we basically discussed education and implementing solutions that can help within schools. So the first thing that we discussed, we began our discussion with talking about making a subject. So I'm sure all of you do moral education and social studies. So implementing a lesson that's about climate change for the ministry schools that have that space to put that in their timetable. So starting from KG1, you basically just talk about what is climate change, just in a simple way, just so that you get educated on it. And then every year it just gets more complex, where you learn more about the science behind climate change, what you can do, and then also doing group projects. So that means that you graduate being educated on climate change. So we had some of our German students saying that with their schools, for example, it might clash with the timetable. So implementing that within their curriculum, so implementing lessons about climate change within their geography lessons, within their science lessons, and yeah. So then the second thing that we discussed was having a model COP. So making it more interesting for the students, being able to actively engage and participate in making their own solutions within their schools and inter-schools, so within other schools. And that would be a mix of both COP and MUN, where each student would represent a different country and take on their stance of where they stand with climate change and climate change solutions. So we also discussed having climate change advocates. So first we discussed having climate change advocates just within the schools. So each school in the region or just in the country would have one climate change advocate who would take on and liaise with their peers what they think would be beneficial and what would be the solutions for climate change. So we implemented this in a global perspective, or from a global stance and a global scale. So having one person from every country, or one person from every country kind of represent that country, and especially with the youth, so having them be almost youth advocates or youth representatives, and meeting in summit. So we have over 175 countries, so having one person per country, and then like how they do in COP, putting the countries into groups and grouping the people. So having, say, the GCC people together, the EU people together, where they discuss solutions on how to mitigate climate change. And then we also discussed each country having a parliament where they actively voice the concerns of the youth in that country, and then maybe having one person from the parliament go to the summit to discuss and represent their country. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Group 1. And next for Group 2.
That was amazing. Okay, so representatives, may you please come up?
So we were discussing about innovation and technology and how that relates to the environment and the climate. And one major issue that we found is air pollution. Air pollution can be a result of making your phones, tablets, computers, etc. At the same time, factories, forest fires, these are all major issues or reasons of why the climate or air pollution is happening. And some solutions that we came up with is instead of digging or finding these materials to create your phones, tablets, etc., we use technology, we use AI. We're in an age that this is improving. And I believe that we can use AI to a point that we can dig safely without affecting the air and the climate and the pollution. Another point that we had towards air pollution is using solar panels instead of cars and electric cars, just getting rid of petrol, benzene, etc. I believe that we're in an age that AI is really important, and we can use that in our advantage in creating less air pollution. Thank you.
So we kind of split up into two groups. They had one group and we had one group, but we kind of discussed the same topic. We had air pollution as well, especially air pollution is especially found in Middle Eastern and Asian countries nowadays, with countries like China being an example, having a crisis with air pollution recently. Maybe not recently, a while ago. And a lot of Middle Eastern countries have the same issue. I don't completely think we should put our focus into removing basically the digging and all of the coal mining and all of that, since first off, us Middle Eastern countries don't have enough money to completely transition. A lot of Middle Eastern countries aren't, how do you say it, exactly the richest. And what we do have, though, is a lot of coal and resources. And I think instead of focusing on our mining and our energy use, since we consume a lot of energy, honestly, but still, instead of focusing on that, we should focus on our everyday life to kind of change that. So a thing we found out about air pollution, and one of its main causes is cars. So we were thinking, how would we change that? Electric cars already exist, right? We can use them every day. But a problem that a lot of us have is that electric cars are just more expensive than others. So we were thinking of investing in companies that make electric cars for cheaper, and also investing in charging stations that are found more commonly, and that the charging itself is more cheap. And another issue is forest fires. As you recently probably all know with Canada, you heard how Canada had a bunch of forest fires and all of the air pollution from there went over to New York. That was a big issue. So another thing we could put our focus on is forest fires and other natural disasters, since they also contribute to the air pollution that we see nowadays. And we actually thought of an idea. So one of our group members had the idea of a car that is completely solar powered, does not need any external fuels, and is able to detect forest fires around its agricultural environment. Because obviously it's not only forest that's burning. A lot of, especially in North African in the North African region, a lot of agricultural fields are burned as well. And obviously there's also a lot of pests, which they have to spray extreme amounts of pesticides on their plants so they can prevent that. And we were thinking this machine can also kind of like look out for pesticides. We don't exactly know how we do that, but we were thinking the machine could also support getting rid of pests, which also gets rid of pesticides, which damage the ground and therefore damage it from capturing carbon and reducing the carbon emissions we have on a daily basis. I hope you guys got some ideas off of that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys for your ideas that have a really nice brainstorming. But before concluding, I'd like to ask the Secretary General and the UNICEF representatives and adults at the back if they have any comments or any ideas they'd like to add on.
I'm so happy that I'm here with you all today, and I'm so proud of each and every one of you. I've been enjoying, me and my colleagues here, Her Excellency and His Excellency Tayyip Adam, the conversations, and I'm speechless, to be honest. I'm so proud of all of you. MashaAllah, keep it up, and I'm looking forward to the end of this conversation.
Thank you. I was also very impressed, like you, Your Excellency. And it is fun to see how you got into a good discussion very quickly. I was also very impressed by the two young ladies who moderated these panels. I would be very curious to hear from you whether that was particularly, whether it was like talking to any other students or whether it was sort of a little bit different. And I think you pointed to that point that the curricula may be a little bit different in the German schools and so on. So I'd be very interested to know how the workshops went and how you found the discussions today. And maybe we'll find a forum where we can explore that a little bit further. But I think it's not just the end of a project. What our hope is really that it is the beginning of a continuing dialogue, and in a time where we all have our mobile phones, and I'm sure you do too, this does not have to be the end. You can stay in touch, and I would be very happy if that would be the result of this project. That would really mean something to me, that it connects young minds and I think connects young talents, and I've seen a lot of talent already around me. And thank you very much for this wonderful afternoon. Thank you.
Well, what can I say? I think it's all been said. Indeed, I'm also very impressed, but also I'm very inspired, actually. And I was talking to Her Excellency Reem and also the Chancellor, the Consulate here, saying that now it's the children who should be given this opportunity, because they have the solutions. They know how they can come up with the solutions of the problems. And our youth advocates, when they were speaking at the beginning, they were saying that the climate change is making a huge impact on children. I don't know if you know, but 1.2 billion children around the world are affected by the climate change. But if we flip this into opportunity, it is 1.2 billion champions of climate change. And I think what we have here today is that example of, the champions of the climate change. I'm very much impressed by the high level of the thinking. I think the two elements which you discussed, the leadership and education, and then the solution which came from the team here in terms of how we can enhance the leadership and how can education become a strong factor to help, address climate change issues. So that's great, but also the whole idea is about how we can have that, dialogue between countries, between children from different backgrounds. Today, this is one of the examples, the Emirati and German children's dialogue. But also in terms of the other element which was being discussed, the technology and innovation. Indeed, these are two actually important elements that can be help to address issues like pollution. So really, I'm very much impressed, and I'm really also very proud of the partnership we are having with the Supreme Council for Motherhood and Childhood, and also this collaboration now with the German embassy. I think that's a good example, a good partnership that we can take it to the next level, and I'm very proud to see, the children here. And just to say, actually, this COP is one of the COPs which is giving the most important element for children participation. So this is the first COP when you have a Children's Day dedicated, but also the first COP we see that children are really having their voice being heard, opportunities given to them to come up with solutions, to speak out, to participate. And I think the children are the best who will be coming up with solutions, not us as adults, I'm saying. So well done, congratulations to all of you, really. Thank you so much.